Are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm great. Nice to see you.
You as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome to
Thank you.
this cosmic collaboration.
Yes.
I've been watching your videos for so long now. I've watched as many of them as I could get hold of, and I'm so excited to be connecting with you. I've had such nerves,
No, no need for that at all. That's silly. I mean, not
as,
silly, but
as
don't
if
need
the
that.
message is so scary.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very lighthearted message.
It is. You're doing a great job bringing such light all over the planet with your
Thank
message.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, welcome, Christian Sundberg. And I wondered if because I'm sort of a little bit nervous still, maybe you could give us a little bit of an intro. I know you've had a very unique pre-birth experience, memory, and I'm just wondering if you can just give me a little bit of an intro into what that is, and maybe then we'll go into what it was about.
Hmm. What the memory was, or an
Or what
introduction?
what what is a pre-birth memory?
Yes. Yeah. So a pre-birth memory, that's just the term we use for knowing or having memory of existence between physical incarnations, or could be other physical incarnations, but primarily, when I speak to it, I mean the time in between being physically incarnated as a being, because we are not actually just the human characters. We are ourselves, our spirit, the consciousness. That's what we are, and that consciousness transcends a given physical experience. So it is possible to know our existence outside of a physical constraint set. And that's what I mean by a pre-birth experience or pre-birth memory. Mhm.
Mm. And are you okay if we go straight into what you remember and how
Sure.
that came about?
Sure. So this is very, very hard to describe in language. I have to disclaim that every time. In fact, language cannot possibly speak to it because language is form. It's our local symbols. Our language is based in our world and all of its limitations and all of its contexts, like discrete location and linear time. You know, these like they seem foundational to what reality is, but they're actually not. And our language is like wrapped up in that. And it's so limited. So it's
Mhm.
almost impossible to try to describe this with human language. I just have to say that first. So if you'd like me to share it, just stop me anytime
Well,
if
you do
you
a
ever need.
really incredible job sharing it. I think your
Thanks.
language is very precise.
No, it's very frustrating actually to use language.
Mm,
I feel like as soon as we open our mouths or write something down, it's just wrong because this is so big and so beautiful and so deep.
mm,
Anyway, to in summary, and I've shared this a number of times, but I remember existing before I had ever been physical. I know that sounds wild, like I'm a down to earth guy, like I'm a normal kind of person. I didn't share this for 8 years because I know how this sounds. I'm a working professional, and this is kind of sounds pretty out there. But um, so I remember existing before I had been physical and coming across a being who had been physical and feeling okay, because in those higher realms, our connectedness is felt and known. And so the communication there is done telepathically, and we just share with each other huge chunks of information and feeling, all at once.
mm,
And so I could feel from him and see how like beautifully rich he was, like the quality of his essence. It was just it was amazing. It was remarkable. And I was like, oh my gosh, do you feel as much joy as I feel that you feel? And he shared with me, he let me like down into it. And he shared with me this incredible depth of joy. And I asked, like, well, what could you possibly have done to be this? Like, this is amazing. Like
This,
how are you this?
this
Yeah.
is this golden being that you met, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Gold is just the visual a visual element of how I saw him. He was very rich with this golden light.
Mm.
And he shared with me that he had lived physical lives, and there was one in particular in which he had been physically like damaged in some way. He had some kind of pain, some kind of disease. And it lasted with him for a long time. And the way that he chose to meet that experience, allow it, integrate it really, really come to
Mhm.
terms with it, really understand it, really allow it and feel it and heal it. The way that he chose to do that, it it facilitated or something. I don't know how to describe this, but it enabled this incredible refinement of his being. That's the only way I can put it. Such that he forever had that new depth. And so that even here outside of the physical life, he had this incredible depth. And I was like, I want to do that. Like I want to do that. I was so inspired. I was like deeply, deeply inspired. And he's at first he shared something like, yeah, that's what they all say. Like
Mm.
you just don't know what you're asking. You don't know how hard it is. Just not negative, but just very like neutral, very matter of fact. Like you just don't know what you're asking.
Sorry, Christian, where were you when you met this being? Like which
So so there are many different reality systems, and I'm not quick to try to label them,
yeah.
especially from the human point of view. I can at least say that I was with a large group of beings, and we were moving across a landscape of light, and we were doing similar work. This
Mhm.
being was among us. There were hundreds of us, but he was very different. But he resonated with this work for some reason, so he was doing this work at the same time. But his quality of essence stood out in the group and in the environment. It was obvious.
Okay.
So I can't say too much more because I don't have I'm still veiled. Still very much veiled. So I don't have clear memory of everything. But I remember that we were moving across this landscape and it was like a landscape of living light that we are a part of. Because and I've experienced this in out of body experiences too, actually, um, where the landscape of the higher vibrational realm is alive and we can feel it in us. It's a part of us actually, even though it appears external like Earth might. But I don't want to limit it either because this is much higher than Earth. Like I said, this is why language is so poor. But anyway, you can feel that environment is like in you and you're a part of it. Um, anyway, I don't know if that speaks to your question.
Mm. So were you working like together with
We
these
were doing so,
many?
yeah, we were all going and we were working towards some shared energetic goal. See, because in thought responsive realms, the work we do, we have so this is not like human work where in Earth work means like moving objects around and like talking to each other is a lot of work. Just having meetings. I have a lot of meetings in my job. Um, it's amazing how much time we spend on just that. But in those higher realms, the connectedness is so much less limited. Like the bandwidth is huge. Okay, so the type of work that we do in general, in broad terms, is more aligned with the types of activities that are in alignment with our true nature. So that is our activities that are of creativity and love and service and peace and joy and experiencing those things, celebrating them, expanding them. And that might mean, like, for instance, when we think of the word virtues, there are many different virtues that we explore and learn and grow through and with. And we do that in a myriad of ways because in thought responsive realities, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but your intention and your thoughts immediately have an effect. So there's all sorts of work, so to speak, that is about the utilization of thought and intention. Like it's a form. So you could say even just like learning how to create thought forms of a certain type or complexity is a type of activity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were busy with that and you met this
Yeah, and I don't know
beautiful
exactly what we were
being.
doing. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
doing some shared work together, and I met this being, and he inspired me. Yeah,
Okay. There's just another question coming to mind, which might not be really related, but anyway, while we out there in the ethers,
yeah.
it's like something around dimensions and densities and stuff like that.
hmm
Do you have any memory of sort of traveling in different densities or
hmm
dimensions? I don't know how you would distinguish those things.
Yes. Yeah, that so the reason that it's often described as densities or layers is because all reality systems are taking place within consciousness. So it feels like we're like in a physical body looking out of some eyeballs at a world, okay? But really that is all form playing on and in the movie screen of consciousness. So it's really that consciousness vibrates, so to speak. It's not actually even a physical vibration, okay? But it feels like a physical vibration when you experience it. It's very, very physical feeling, very physical feeling. We vibrate into different reality systems. We engage with them through resonance, you could say. And so this Earth reality is an example of an extremely dense, which means extremely low vibration um, reality system. I'm being hesitant there because there's qualifications that are necessary. So the Earth is not negative. It's just very, very dense and very limited.
Mm.
It's very
Slow.
solidified, slow, exactly. It's very slow, it's very solidified. It's like if you froze water, or something. It's just cold. It's not negative, it's just cold. So Earth is kind of like that. It's just very, very, very low vibration by comparison. But the reason I'm qualifying it is because really the key action of vibrational shift is not only just where we are engaged through a veiled experience like here, but in the meaning we put on it, because a loving, joyful, free state of being is a very high vibration state. Whereas existing in fear and in rejection and in all of the manifestations of ego that arise out of fear, like anger, for instance, those are very low vibration because they're not in alignment with the truth. Fear is not in alignment with the truth. And that's a very low vibration by comparison. So I'm just qualifying that answer because it's not just that we're physically in this like low vibration place. It's also that we as consciousness are constantly like we are complex vibrational beings. It's not just one vibration we're entertaining in any given moment. We're usually holding on to all sorts of vibrations,
Mm.
you know. And so all of that is like a vibrational picture. And the earth context just happens to be a neighborhood, you could say, in spirit and consciousness that is very uniquely low vibration. And I'll just lift up one other last idea about that because I know I went all over the place here, but um, what is so unique about this dense earth experience is its degree of separation that we experience here. So the limitation is so high, and one of the main ways that it's uniquely off the charts high is that we feel separate from each other.
Mm.
That's super weird. Like that's not how many other reality systems are. We we very typically know our connectedness. We feel it. We know that the other person is connected to us. They're a part of us, you could even say.
Mm.
Whereas on Earth, we have almost completely lost sight of that. And we feel like the people outside of us are just other people and they're them and I'm me and they're out there.
Yeah,
They're
we
not
like
me.
we like play this game here of being bound and gagged and forgotten, and it's like a
I will say bound is probably true. I wouldn't say gagged, but as for forgotten, we feel forgotten.
feeling, yeah, just like.
Yeah. But we're not actually. It's just part of the illusion of being veiled.
Mm. And I'm going to come back to this being, but what do you think of the idea of, the fact that we kind of in the higher frequency realms, and then we come here to
Hmm.
to test something, like to test our metal, to test our
Hmm.
thoughts,
Yeah.
whether we can hold a thought,
Yes.
into reality, kind of thing. Like it might feel so easy on the other side because everything's it's much faster. But when you come here, it's like, and I know you describe going lower, lower like that, which is amazing. It sharpens your sword, you could say.
Yes, absolutely. It sharpens your sword. Everything you just said is very, very appropriate. It's like we pit ourselves into, and I don't want to say against, okay, because the physical reality doesn't have to be an adversary. In fact, it's for us, not against us. But anyway, we pit ourselves into this limitation set because it is like sharpening a sword. And what sword are you sharpening? The sword of consciousness itself, beingness itself, how it responds. Like you said, can it hold a thought in a certain context? That's an example of a quality of intention, holding an intention. Like if you're in pain, it's a lot harder to, choose acceptance than if you're not in pain, as a very simple example. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that point. I've been thinking since I first heard you say it, the quality of intention. Um, it sort of made me contemplate that quite a lot. I haven't heard many people use those specific words like that, and it's quite it's like, what could I say, like very sophisticated way of approaching
Mm.
reality with a quality of intention. So, um, and I think it's a really important tool, like a takeaway for life on Earth, because I think that if people can wake up long enough to even remember what they're even trying to do here, then you can come, closer to having a certain quality of your intention. And maybe you could just give us an example. I mean, perhaps this incarnation cycle with this being that had a certain quality of being links to the quality of your intention. I'm not sure.
Sure. Well, first of all, I didn't create that term. I first heard that from Tom Campbell. He uses
Okay.
that term a lot in his work. He's a physicist and consciousness explorer. And his book, My Big Toe, which stands for My Big Theory of Everything, it's considered it might be considered dry by some people. It's quite intellectual. But I personally benefited hugely from it, having come from an intellectual background myself. He goes in great length. He speaks at great length about the term quality of intention, and I think it's the purest way to describe what I'm trying to describe as well. So I borrow the term. Okay, but quality of intention does not require you to know why you're here. I know that I know that it might be confusing because if we think that quality of intention means I need to perform a given task, and if my intention is in alignment with that task, I succeed, and if it's not, I don't. That's not actually that's not actually correct. It's that quality of intention is, boy, I mean, I guess it's hard to describe it without using the word quality. It is a quality of the real why that is more in alignment with the true nature of who we really are than less. So our true nature is love and endless love and peace and freedom and joy and personal creativity and authenticity and aliveness, you know. And love means service to the whole and to the other, celebration of the whole and of the other, you see, like all the things that can mean. So the question is, in any given choice, at any given moment, are you in alignment with that? Or are you in alignment with the fear? And it's okay. This is not a judgment. The fear just means the part of you that has responded to, reacted to the physical limitation set with a no, 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 I reject that, and no, screw you, because I'm over here and I'm in pain and I'm not gonna, and all the things the ego immediately rises up because that's all the ego story prompt pops right up, or for instance, I feel powerless and I'm gonna believe this thing that will give me power, or I'm, powerless, so I'll become angry because look, anger seems like it gives me a little bit of power, and all those fake things, they don't really address the root. So the question is our intention in alignment with the real power, which is everything that love and peace and freedom and joy mean, versus the little mini me fake power of fear and ego. And so many decisions on earth are made from the quality of the latter rather than the quality of the former. And note that these are about qualities, not specific behaviors, actually.
But I
Humans
mean,
like it real cut and
don't you
dry.
think I mean, by the sounds of it, you have to have awaken
Mm.
awakened to a degree to be able to arrive at a quality of intention.
Hmm. Yeah, there is definitely an element of degree of form association occurring. So that's how asleep you are into the form and into the dream and into the conditioning. So if someone is more form associated, more deeply associated, more asleep, there is much less space for conscious choice because everything's running on autopilot.
Mm,
Actually, I should clarify. It's not everything that is running on autopilot. It's just that there's a lot running on autopilot.
right. So
And so the difference between
someone like that could be just in survival kind of consciousness in a way.
Mhm.
And so their intent would be, oh, I must survive, right? And it wouldn't might
Right, they actually are wielding an intent. Yeah.
it
They're
might
wielding
not
an intent even if it's subtle. I'm sorry to interrupt. So like there might be this like automatic like program running that seems like they're not very
survive.
conscious of survive, survive, survive. You hurt me, I'm going to punch you right back without even thinking about it. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying it like that
No, I
because
know. So the
that's how the ego
quality,
is. The ego is asleep. That's another way
right,
you can put this. Ego is asleep. Asleepness is kind of synonymous with egoic action. They're
right.
synonymous. And so as we uh, shift. So all it takes is one moment of conscious thinking, you see, or not, and it's not even just thinking. Thinking is actually subsequent to the intention. One moment of conscious choice making, put it that way, towards more acceptance, more love, more peace, more freedom, more joy, more ownership. Even even just willingness to see the painful conditioning story that's running over and over and over, even just a little bit.
Mm,
Maybe you're super asleep, but you got that little bit of awakeness. Now, see, the thing is, consciousness itself here, this is really important. Consciousness itself is alert and awake and powerful. That's its true nature, you know. So if we are asleep into some muck, it's never true that we're totally stuck there. That's not possible. Because as deeply as we may have become asleep into this level of density, we are still consciousness.
right.
So you always have some room, whether I don't want to put it in numerical terms, but like, whether it's a small sliver of alertness and awareness from which to make a more intentional, loving choice or a bigger one, you always have some room to choose in that direction.
Mm. Yeah, I think you should give a whole workshop on that because I mean it's quite for me it's very valuable to think about it actually more specifically. And yeah,
Mhm.
I'll look a little bit at. I have looked at Tom Campbell's work, but it'd be interesting to study it a bit more. Okay, so let's go back to where you met this beautiful being who had various degrees of suffering. And you said
He had
you
suffered, yeah.
wanted that. You wanted that because they.
It wasn't that I wanted suffering, it was that I wanted the depth of joy that he was.
Mm.
It,
And,
it's a like it's like seeing an Olympic weightlifter who's strong and saying, "Oh, I'd like to be strong." You don't think, "Oh, I want to hurt myself under some weights." That's not That's not your motivation. Your motivation is, "Wow, that's cool. I want to be strong."
right.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
So, okay, so there was a lot of experience after that that I don't remember. I lived many times. I know that. And most of my pre-birth memory is of a time somewhat immediately preceding this life where so it was before this life and the one just before this, where I had taken a long break in between lives, and I was hesitant to return. It's like taking a very long weekend or a long
Right.
summer break,
I think a lot of
and
us
just
can
being like,
relate to that.
yeah. And I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But you see, okay, but it's important to point out that the guides, they see us for who we are. So even there, they can see. So I don't want this to be misconstrued, but it's like I could say it was my own immaturity is why I was so hesitant to come back. And they can see that a little bit. So they come back over and over and I mean this guy came to me repeatedly over time. Are you ready to go back yet? Are you ready to go back yet? like waiting long periods of time in between and then asking me if I'm ready and then telling him I was ready to go back. And then reviewing with him like my state. That's the best way. I don't know how to put it, but like who I am, like everything I learned and experienced. Learned is not a great word even because as soon as we use the word learned, we think it's intellectual learning. And this is more about learning of the being by being something, like actual experiential learning. And I reviewed with him all of this, all these you could even say like qualities or virtues. And
Mhm.
it was so obvious the one thing that I needed to quote work on. And I don't want to say it's not need to. We don't need to do anything. It's choose. But it was so obvious this one thing that stuck out. It was like if you looked at a bar chart that had like 200 data points on it, and one of them was like way, way, way down. It's like kind of a joke. Like, oh, well, that's not hard to identify. It was like that. Yeah,
So,
sorry, go
Kristen,
ahead.
how I'm just curious how the review comes about. Is it kind of like almost like a soul reveal? Like because how do you? What's the mechanism of being able to look at all these qualities? How does that happen?
In Yeah, in consciousness, it's all there.
Okay.
So so like on Earth, we might think that we need mechanisms to accomplish things, but in spirit, you are who you are, and it's all there. It's all seen. You could think of it like a big database, maybe,
Mm,
looking at the whole database at once. And it's not hard to do that, even though that's huge. It's huge amounts of experience, but it's also about qualities. Okay, so maybe metaphorically, you could think of the soul as having colors, different colors, and each color. I mean, this is just a crude metaphor, so I apologize. Please don't misread it. But it's like if you've got 500 colors in the soul, and they all have different brightnesses, something like that. Something like that. I mean, it's not a great metaphor because each soul is very unique and beautifully unique, and it's not like we all have the same colors. You know, your green and my green are not exactly the same. That's the beauty of it, in fact. But in this case, the one color, the one thing, the one quality that I could see was like a huge Mongo challenge for me was this specific fear, a quality of fear that had in a previous experience it had bested me, it had overcome me, and I had turned into an egoic monster because of it. Because egoic patterns arise from fear. So I could see this fear was like really deep, and I was like, wow, okay. I'd love to do that. That'd be a freaking amazing. Like I could if I could really heal that, integrate that. But even from that point of view, I knew like, is it even possible? Like, is it just because it was such low vibration? I was like, wow, like, has that ever been done in all of creation? Has any other being ever done that? And the guide shared with me, yes, and you have all of time with you to do so. And I was like, okay, well, if it can be done, I'll do it. Like from the human point of view, I know it's not hasn't been that simple. It's of course, and I'm not even saying that it seems simple there. It did not seem simple there. I had a clear sight. I could see it was very, very complex and challenging, but I also knew our true nature. You know, from that point of view, I just knew what we are and that we can't fail and there's nothing to fear, like for real. And
wow.
from that point of, and I knew my power. I knew I was a powerful being.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I'll do it. If it can be done, I'll do it. You know, so then they brought me a life that was appropriate for that intention, and it wasn't this life. It was the one right just before this. And then I remember accepting the veil for that life. And just please stop me if I didn't speak to your comment or your question because I just realized I'm going forward.
No, it's
But
fine.
so okay, so accepting the veil. Okay, so this is really hard to describe to you, but it's basically like a set of limitations and constraints that we wear on and in consciousness. So it's like taking on an obscuring blanket, and I felt that I had to accept that veil. I had to not fight it, you know, because the only way because we are pieces of God, you could say, we're pieces of the source. We have total sovereignty and power. Like there's nothing that can overcome us. It's not possible. The only way that we can seem to lose our power is to give it to a veiling, like to surrender it. So I felt this plummet in my vibration, down, 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 more, 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 lower, lower, lower. I've described this so many times, but just lower, 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 lower. And then after this incredible plummet of vibration, being feeling dense and dark and alone, like having all my knowingness not there anymore, feeling my connectedness disappear. And I immediately responded in fear. I was like, no way, I'm not doing this. There's no way I'm going to tolerate this for a lifetime. I'm not going to do this. And I had just arrived to the womb, I wasn't even born yet.
Mm.
And, so then I was like, I'm not going to do this. So I summoned my might and I fought my way out. I knew that I was a powerful spiritual being and I could just push my way back out. So I did. But I realized that in doing that, I had killed the fetus that was to be my body. I had a life review, just like near-death experience just described, except I wasn't even born yet. I don't know how long I was there, but it was a very short time.
Mm.
But I could see how my action affected the mother because I caused her to have a miscarriage. And I could see then she had grief. And I could see how hundreds of other people were affected by the mother because her grief was higher. And I was that, like, I caused that. Like, I could see that my choice made that happen. And so, like, from the other side, you can see everything's okay. Like, it's not like there's a true failure, but I could just see very objectively, like, oh man, I got a lot of fear. Like, I got to do something about this. So, eventually they brought me this life. And this life was not quite as appropriate as the first one would have been, but it was still pretty darn good. And I remember reviewing this life in incredible detail, reviewing millions and millions of possibilities of how this life might unfold, and reviewing qualities that I may or may not experience or that I would want to have. Like there's some tweaking available. And then I remember then subsequently being in this area, like waiting for the life to begin, and then this guide coming to me and being like, go now. And then being in this area I can only describe as like a technician's chamber or like a I know this sounds wild, but it was like a shop or a space station or something above the Earth, and I could see the Earth below me. And I was hovering above this like pit in the ground, this like shaft, and there were these beings there who were very technical in nature, and they are veil application technicians or something.
Hmm.
And they do this thing where they organically make the veil work for you. And so they did that, and they had the veil ready to go, and they're like, "Are you ready? Are you ready to go?" Because I knew once I said yes here, I was like in for the ride. And I said yes. And then once again, I felt my vibration plummet down, 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 lower, 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 more, lower, more, lower, more. And then when I think I'm at the bottom, just keep going, lower, lower,
Oh
lower.
my God.
It was so crazy. And this time, just trying not to fight it because I remember that I had fought it the first time and caused a miscarriage. So this time, I was just like, just don't fight it, just let it happen. And then when I had arrived, so to speak, in the womb. See, because you don't have any clarity anymore once you've post veiling. So I didn't
Mm.
know if I had even arrived and I all the way. Like I felt really dense, but I was like, did I make it? So I sent one message back to the technicians. Did I make it? Did it take? And they sent, did it like the veil take? Like did I successfully receive and accept the veil? And they sent one message back, yes. And that was actually I felt really accomplished, even though I was only in the womb and had not been born yet. I felt it was a great accomplishment because even just to make it to the physical, our physical, and Earth particularly is it's a heck of a step. It's a big accomplishment.
Mm.
So I was there for a while, and then eventually I was like, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing this. This is too dark. This is so separate. I have no power. I'm done. No, I'm not tolerating this for a lifetime. And so once again, my fear began to rise up, and I began to try to fight my way out. And when I did that, the most holy moment of my whole life happened. I felt the great I am presence of all that is what we call crudely God, source, come to me and expand me back out. And I felt all of the universe within me. Sorry, it's
Wow.
It's really intense. And
Wow.
I felt our whole universe within me, and I felt the sun of Earth in me. And I felt it was alive. It had consciousness and it was churning with this bliss.
Mm. Wow.
And God said to me, "This is still what you are. You can never not be this."
Wow.
So I stopped fighting because I was like, "Oh, I haven't lost all that I am." And because that's why I was freaking out and fighting. I was reacting in fear because I thought I wasn't the whole anymore, but I knew that I knew I had true strength. So screw this. I'm going to fight my way out. And I don't really understand why these two incarnations were so challenging in contrast to earlier incarnations. I don't fully understand that because I've incarnated many times. I think it has to do with the unique vibrational lowness of the Earth experience and of this body actually, because each world has its own vibrational place, each nation, each family, and each body. And I knew that this body had biological limitations that other bodies don't, and it would make existing more difficult, more painful.
Mm.
Anyway, so I don't really understand exactly why. I theorize it's because this unique body, this unique world, the characteristics of everything combined, plus the depth so this is also an important point. Not every not every being is engaging the human experience to the same depth of sensitivity.
Right.
And so to come here with greater sensitivity is a harder challenge. It has bigger rewards because all contrast is an opportunity. It's given to us. And so being very sensitive, which I'm very sensitive to freaking everything. I'm so sensitive, it's ridiculous. Being very sensitive is it's a greater challenge, but also a greater opportunity for growth.
Mm.
Anyway, so I don't really know why these two experiences were uniquely so challenging, but um, so once I had that experience, I stopped fighting, and I was like, oh, I haven't lost all that I am. Okay, and I went back to the simple existence of being in the womb. And a while later, it seemed like a long time later, I was born. And I remember the day I was born. I remember the shock, the sight, the sound, the touch. I remember the circumcision. I
Mm.
remember seeing the nurses and just being so like, I was so curious, like, who are these beings? And I remember feeling love for everyone, but having no freaking idea what was going on. I just felt the most intense curiosity, like, oh my gosh, I need to start feeling this understanding, like right now, like like I don't know how to describe it. Like I need to start like learning, like what is happening. It was like I felt so vulnerable in an empty way, like I had no knowledge of what was happening.
Wow.
Um, And then 10 days later, when my body was 10 years old, my body almost died actually. I aspirated and turned purple, and my parents took me to the hospital. So I've always kind of wondered if maybe somehow that has something to do with all this. I don't have any knowledge of having a near-death experience, but I've heard some people share with me that, they had NDEs as babies and they've had some similar experiences in their life. So I don't know if that's related,
Mm.
but I've just been wondering, if maybe somehow that's related or somehow because I know once someone has a near-death experience, the veil gets like punctured a little bit. Like there's some kind of
Mm.
it's not the same, not quite the same. Anyway, that's just conjecture. I'm not sure about that, but yeah. So
Wow.
that's a summary. I say we already went on for over half an hour, but I'm trying to
Wow,
be
that's
quick.
absolutely amazing. So, Christian, the way you speak about the veil and sort of taking on the veil is quite unique as well. I mean, I know other people have spoken about it in different ways, but
hmm
I just found it very useful in a way. The way that you're speaking about it, it's kind of like there's much more the way that your message is. There's much more of a proactive choosing. Some people talk about it as like a prison planet, and you come
I
here,
know.
you stuck, and you're forced to sort of
So can
things,
I
and
make a comment on that?
yeah.
So there's different levels of the self, okay? At the deepest level, at the soul level, you cannot be forced because you are a piece of source. You have ultimate authority, sovereignty. It's not possible to force without your choice. That's not possible. In fact, even the ability to choose to surrender yourself into a veiled experience is quite the amazing technology. so to
Mm.
speak. Not really tech. When I say technology, I'm not speaking, of course, in the earthly sense. I'm talking about in the sense that spirit has evolved, not just through this universe, but through countless iterative universes. It's learned how to do this, so to speak. Okay, so at the deepest level, you have to choose. Now, at lower levels of the self, at the ego personality level, it can seem like there's no choice. Just like here on Earth, if you, you know, get a kidney stone and you can't escape the pain, you seems like you have no choice,
Right.
and you something might be forced upon you, so to speak. I had a lung collapse when I was 26. I was in the hospital for 10 days with a tube in my chest. It didn't feel like I had any choice, and they stuck a tube in my chest, and I had to live with it, kind of thing. That's just one example of many challenges I've had in life. I'm just saying that we often feel on Earth like we don't have choice, and so
Mm.
when the personality portion of the self that is still form associated steps some distance, some short vibrational distance outside of the human experience, it may feel like there's no choice for a return
Right.
for that smaller portion, for that low, because even though we're post-human, the human personality portion of the self is still just a portion of the self.
So you choose your incarnation, you review it, you choose your best possible destiny, and then as you get veiled, you're locked in to that choice in a way that you've made. And
Yeah, I
then
never use the word destiny. Sorry, I just really
okay, that's
sensitive
fine.
to the word destiny.
Yeah, sure.
What we choose is a context set,
Hmm.
like a context package, And
Okay.
that package has many, many millions of potential outcomes, and some are very likely and some are much less likely.
Okay. So destiny is it too locked in for you? Or,
Yes, destiny is too
okay.
locked in because we always have choice, and there may be
Right.
certain things that are extremely likely, like, something very simple, like you're going to have two arms your whole life. You're not going to grow a third arm. That's not happening. So, like, biological limitations are part of it. A simple example, but I mean, energetically, there are also paths that are extremely likely for a given life. Like if you're born into an abusive family, the trajectory is likely that you will probably experience abuse. Now you get to choose how to respond. This is so important.
Mm.
You may not even know that as a child because children especially are so, we assign godlike, you know, uh, person or identity to the parents, you know, and then we believe what they tell us, and that becomes our conditioned worldview from a very young age. Even though that's true, consciousness is still the driver behind the driver's seat. Even if the car gets conditioned, even if the thinking mind portion, even if the story portion of us gets conditioned in a certain way, we still get to choose how to drive the car. And that
Right.
does push the probabilities. This is very important. So it's not destiny, it's that we have choice within a very dense context. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so um, if so, we come to this. What did you call it? A range of context. What did you call it?
Yeah.
The,
A set of
anyway,
context, a context
set
package.
of
Yeah.
context. Yeah. Okay. Um, and we go through this forgetting process, and then once we hear, then it's about, in a way, remembering again. And I mean, that's a sort of a strange game, really.
Okay, so first of all, we don't necessarily have to remember, but it is kind of built into the long-term plan of the game because we don't come here to stay here forever, and we come here because we are who we really are, which is love and peace and freedom and joy. And waking up to that is awesome. And we are playful beings, and so we have created this great game of hide and seek with ourselves.
Right.
That's really important. Like that one idea is we need to if our society lifted that up and understood that, like for real,
Mm.
oh my gosh, think of how much less seriously we would have to suffer. Because we take this really, really serious. We forget to laugh. Now I know it's not always easy when there's so much pain. That's the nature of this super, super dense world. Can we even in this very extreme limitation wake up to who we are?
That's the
Even a
game.
little. That's the game. And then
That's
find,
the
well,
game.
the game is love. And the reason I'm qualifying it carefully here is because it's not that the game is only that you have to wake up consciously to who you are. The game is to be who you are here, to be who you really are here, which is because your true nature is love and peace and freedom and joy. Can you be that and actualize that here? As we do that, we tend to remember. You see, like in my case, I was certainly not like going out and trying to like remember any of this stuff. I just meditated and investigated who am I? What am I? And I was just very, very willing to feel everything and to see with open clarity, oh, I have a lot of weakness and I have a lot of pain and I've been conditioned in all these ways and I have a lot of fear and it's okay. Like I'm gonna accept all these things I've been afraid of and to anyway, and to really investigate beneath all that too, the living consciousness itself. That's what we always are. We aren't actually the form. Now, it seems like we are. We get really lost in the form. It's not actually what we are. So it's almost a byproduct to remember the larger nature when we align with fullness to our true identity. Yeah.
So, Kristen, what is in your opinion, so I understand it's like, okay, you come in, you face a specific area that is undeveloped,
Mhm.
and you choose to come in to work. Well, I know you don't want to say work on it, but
That's okay. Yeah,
to
work on, sure. We don't have many good words, so go ahead and use work on. We don't have any
to
words.
develop it,
Work through or work
exercise
with, maybe. How about work
yeah,
with?
exercise that muscle. Um, and then do you think you kind of you take that wisdom with you once you've done it? You've
Oh,
kind of
absolutely.
inherit it in a way, and it becomes your pearls or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. No, you absolutely keep that and you keep it forever. So forever is a long time. Okay. So what I mean is it worth the very short duration of a human lifetime to truly understand power or freedom
Mm.
by knowing their opposites and by integrating their opposites, you see? Yes, that's why we come. We don't come to be powerless. We come to be more powerful. I know that sounds like, because it sounds like you can't have one without the other, but the thing is, we transcend duality itself. We made duality. Duality is a creation, it's a creative tool. It's not even fundamentally real. But it creates a space into which that which is real can grow and expand. Okay, so yes, when we experience something specific here on Earth and grow in a specific way, yes, we definitely take that with us. It's a pearl we retain forever. In fact, all experience is like precious pearls to the soul. It retains it all, it knows it all, it keeps it, and wow, it's like it's so valuable. And
Mm.
we absolutely get to keep that. You don't get to keep your body or your money or, you know, your failing eyesight or any of that stuff. That's not you. You're just wearing that stuff for a while. You don't keep that. It's like when you crawl out of your astronaut suit, you don't have to keep the suit, but you keep everything you learned while you were in the suit because you changed. You see, if you go into outer space in an astronaut suit and then you come back, it's not even really what happened to the suit that matters. It's what happened to you that matters and how you responded and how you grew as a result.
Mm.
Once you get out of the suit, once you walk over and oh, maybe you'll go wear another suit now and learn some more. That's okay. You don't have to, but it's up to you if you want to do that. And you get to keep that experience too. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, the word ascension is coming to mind, like the process of coming into a deep density with as much quality of light as you can bring. Then, ultimately to ascend that. I mean, that would expand.
Hmm.
It would expand the depth of your light somehow.
Hmm. It's a refinement of the substance that already is what exists. The substance that already exists is already, I mean, it has no word for it. It's beyond all language, but it's the aliveness of consciousness, the aliveness of being, the love and the peace and the freedom of joy of aliveness itself.
Get
That's what's real. Yeah. And then that gets to refine it through through the thing that it wears.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a nice way of thinking about it. So the process of what, how do you think of the process of ascension?
Okay,
What
so
is that for you?
ascension, yeah, so it depends on if you mean personal ascension or collective ascension. Usually, I mean, usually when we talk about ascension, we're kind of talking about the collective, at least, I mean, it depends on how you use the word. So, ascension in broad terms is the word we use for when you've so integrated the depth that you begin to return back towards the fullness of being, towards the light, but with new wisdom, new depth, new knowing. And so, because if you are stuck in a fear pattern, then you're stuck in a fear pattern, then it's low vibration. It's okay if you get stuck in a fear pattern. That happens sometimes for lifetimes. It doesn't have to. You can actually work through it very quickly.
Right.
But I'm just pointing that out because you can't make it up. Like you are where you are. Like you are where you are. Your soul is where it is. You are where you are. So ascension is about the actual working through of those deep dark patterns and healing them such that our full nature, see, working through the dark is synonymous with bringing the light down here. They're actually both the same. Like I know sometimes in spirituality we tend to think, "Oh no, just focus positive." And there is great power in focusing positive because it's the truth. You're always allowed to choose to focus positive. That's one half of this equation I'm talking about. One half is you always can choose to focus positive because that is the reality. And when you do that, it does shift reality towards the positive. Reality's listening to you all the time. You can choose the positive no matter what's happening. Okay, but meanwhile, the other side of that coin is, well, how do I deal with the negative? How do I deal with the pain? How do I deal with the fear? And it's a synonymous activity, not an opposite activity. To go through that fear, actually, for real, go into it. Go, that's called shadow work. Go into the heart of the darkness and feel it all the way. Feel it, feel it, feel it. No rejection, no requirement for it to change. Just actually go see what's in you. Your willingness to feel it transmutes it into the light. Not your rejection of it, not your trying to solve it through a new process. Not escape, because that could be an escape. That could be an escape intention. It's all about a quality of intention. If your intention is actually to feel it and own it and understand it and love yourself even through it, you see, and actually feel what's there, actually see what's there, then that light of awareness has then been brought into the darkness by your intention.
Mm.
This is so powerful. And this is what so much counseling is about. Like I went through EMDR therapy for years because I had post-traumatic stress after a traumatizing health experience in my early 20s. I could not have awakened in the way that I did without going through years of counseling to find hundreds of layers of fear that I had built on top of this root fear that I came here to process. This root terrible, most terrible, destructive terror, like a fear that's so deep that it feels like it would destroy me. Like, and the universe, like it's impossibly deep. Like, even that, man, you are deeper than that deepest fear. That's a
Wow.
Cliff Notes ending. Your consciousness is deeper. So if you let yourself actually like experience that deepest dark, your willingness to feel it is what transmutes it, you see. It's your quality of it, it's your intention itself because now you've done something that you've never done before. You've said yes rather than no. So let's say you were abused and you have all this like shame and you've never, this is, when I say own your fear, it means acknowledge I have been hurt by someone else. It's a reclaiming of power. And it's actually hard to reclaim your power because it means you actually have to look at the pain you have and feel it. That's
Mm.
hard. That takes bravery. But if you really do that, you can reclaim your power and you can find, oh, I am not worthless. I am not shameful. I am a good, powerful being and I am worthy to actually heal, actually feel all this stuff, actually let go, let the other person go. That's called forgiveness,
Right.
let the other person go and actually live now. And maybe you've never done that your whole life, but the moment you do it, in that now, you're doing it for all the nows, including post life, actually, because it's all one big now. And
Right.
so that now that you do it, you have created a new space into which your true nature can then shine. This is so. And I wish I had better language for it because this is very real work, and it's just there's limited words.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, I've done a lot of my own spiritual journey, and I listen to you, and it's like I just it's like I'm baffled, you know. It's like there's something in me or perhaps it's just the nature of this veiling,
Mhm.
that it's like every time I hear it, it's the first time I've ever heard it. And you can tell me the
Yeah.
same thing in the next minute, and it's like a miracle. It's just being told,
I I
you know?
experienced that too. Okay, so my simple example of that is, um, so meditation is actually kind of like rediscovering the truth every time because you forget. Because as soon as you go back into the world of form and you are the worker and you are the father and you are the sick person and you have these identities that you're like seeing out of those eyes, then that's what you are. You're not the whole
It
anymore. Now
just
you're that.
swallows you
So
up
it's like a new, yeah, it swallows you up.
like
So
a
it's like a
whale.
new, it's like a rediscovery. I mean, there was one time I had this incredible experience after meditation. I knew with all my being that I was not this and our higher nature, and it was blissful. And I put a little sticky above my monitor that said, "It is an illusion." Just to remind myself because I knew
Right.
that I would forget. And hundreds of times I've looked up at that little sticky and went, "Oh, that's right. I forgot again.
No.
Oh, that's right. I forgot again." That's okay. That's the nature of being veiled. The veil simply allows us to get lost in the weeds pretty easily, you know?
Right. It's like being, I see you as like an anti-veil technician down here.
No, no, no. And I don't want to do that.
You don't.
I feel sensitive about that topic
Okay.
because their work is important and the veil is meaningful. And I didn't share for a while in part because I didn't sense it would be beneficial to share. It can be destructive to some people to hear, to have their worldview shaken up too much. But about 6 years ago or 7 years ago now, I just had the sense the ground is just fertile enough. And so I've shared in the way that I felt that I should share. And there's certain elements I feel that I shouldn't share, and I don't share, and that's okay. Or sometimes I'm curious and I'll go look in consciousness myself and I'll just get this, no, you don't need to see that right now. It's fine. Like it's not a refusal. It's just like, that's not beneficial. And see, it's only when we are uh, willing to discern the difference, you see, and actually try to serve and not do something out of it, for the ego, that we tend to be able to say, okay, like I can share what's useful and hopefully not what's not useful. So anyway, I'm
Mm.
just saying that because I would never say that I'm an anti-veil technician, but no, but I would say that from this
An
side of the veil,
antidote to the veil.
well, I'm simply excited to be sharing something that is true. I won't say the truth because nobody can say the truth, but I am excited to share something that is true that we have forgotten because it is the most ridiculously good news. Like it
Absolutely.
is such good news. And I know that in 2 hours from now, after I get back into work and it's like, frustrating work topics arising, um, I know that I'm gonna maybe get lost in that, but that's okay. Like, how do I respond then? That's the opportunity. It's, in other words, we are here. The veiling is intentional.
Mm.
But on the other hand, can we choose to do whatever we want here on Earth? Yes. Are we allowed to wake up to who we really are? Yes. If you want, yes. Are you allowed to say, because some people will say, well, aren't you doing a disservice by reminding us that we're veiled because now life won't have the same punch? Yeah, I will acknowledge that on one hand, there is a certain loss of punch that can happen if you know that you're a multidimensional being. And that has an effect. I acknowledge that I'm having that effect for some people. It's just the nature of talking about it. But on the other hand, we are free. This is a playground.
Mm.
And so it'd be like saying going to the gym, like if you said, well, if you take some weight off the bench, isn't it true they might have less weight to push against? Yes. But on the other hand, the whole gym is a creation. It's not even who we really are. And so part of the great joy is waking up to who we really are while we're still in the gym. Life
Right.
still has its challenges that will rise up. I mean, like the human condition is it's kind of riddled with opportunity. I should say more articulately because that's kind of unfair. It's just that the probabilities are such that we will have many opportunities to grow, and it can help us to do that when we have some tiny awareness of who we really are.
Mm,
Because when those challenges arrive, we can say, wait a minute, wait a minute. Maybe I can choose something a little more consciously, back to your original topic. Maybe I can choose something that's a little more free, carefree, a little more joyful. Maybe I don't have to do this stressful thing I really need to do, and I can just go for a walk, you know,
mm,
like, or whatever it is. Like, we can be more intentional about how we respond to the playground of form that has arisen. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And also, one other comment, as we shift in the assumption of what we are in our mind space, just even in the idea of what we actually align vibrationally more with higher states of being, just because if you believe you're just a little human, that's what you're gonna get. But if you open up to, wait a minute, am I really a multidimensional being? Are out of body experiences actually possible? Yes, they are. I'm here to tell you they're more real than this. But
right,
if you even just acknowledge that they're possible in your own mind, even just that opens the door a crack, such that the higher states you might find that you experience them. They might arise. They might arrive
right,
to you. Not, just because now you're more in alignment with that. And I feel like that is actually a service to the guides in a sense because it's like giving them space to work with us
right.
through. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of thoughts. The one is this idea of the prison planet theme again, which is like some people talk about like a thought-induced prison. So, in other words, if your
Mhm.
thoughts are limited and you think a certain way, then you create a prison for
Can I
yourself.
interrupt you, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very sensitive to this topic.
Hmm.
It's a little bit like telling somebody to be scared of their own power. We are thought responsive. We are thought creating beings who create thought responsive reality systems, and we do create our realities through our thoughts. Telling someone to be afraid of that is like telling somebody to be afraid of their own creative nature. Now, is this a prison planet? No. No, no, no. Like that is, I feel so strongly about this because I feel like it's such a disservice to communicate in that. I've heard people say like, well, avoid the light when you transition. Don't avoid the light, guys. You will feel the incredible pulling of the light on your very being because it is the higher freedom of your true nature. You will feel that. Don't avoid that. Only fear is going to say avoid that. So anyway, we experience fear-based ideas here. We experience perceptions of being powerless or being trapped or being coerced. We sometimes people can lie to us or trick us, and we live in a society that often, um, you could say, milks the worker. Like uses people for something. Like our systems use people, right? And so now that we experience that, we've somehow taken that idea and tried to push that up the ladder and say, well, what if the whole earth is like that? And now that we are just as souls being like used for, fear energy. I've heard that term loosh, or whatever that term
Mm,
is. No, that is all, that's like more, it's like the belief in hell.
mm,
It's like we just take the contrast we've experienced and then we magnify it and create a new belief around it. But that is not the full picture. Like no form can be the full picture. It's bigger than all form. And that thing that transcends all form is complete freedom, complete joy, complete love. Like, so
absolutely.
anything that's less than that and you know what? Your soul will kind of tell you. If you think of like, oh, is this a prison planet? You kind of feel this, it doesn't feel real good. Well, that's because you got this inner compass that when something aligns with the truth, it feels good. And when something aligns with something less than the truth, like trappedness or coercion or eternal punishment, no, there are hellish experiences on Earth, and there are hellish experiences in non-physical realities where thoughts are responsive, and we bring our own fear. And we create a reality system out of fear instantaneously without even knowing we're doing it. And then we feel physical things like burning of the skin. That's possible to feel that.
Mm,
We feel that on Earth too? The question in all those instances is the same. Are we aligning with fear and creating fear? Or are we aligning with the truth, which is love, and creating love?
Mm,
And so to point out that someone, hey, you can create a hellish experience for yourself. Aren't you afraid? You see, that's not productive. We should say, hey, you can create any experience you want for yourself. Isn't that empowering?
mm,
Because in thought responsive systems, that is immediately created. And here on Earth, we're all doing it together. 8 billion, however many humans there are, plus all the non-humans. We're all exerting intention and pushing the probabilities all the time. And we're creating this world together. And are we doing that in alignment with love or fear? That's the question. Including fear-based ideas like we're all trapped and living on a prison planet, you
mm.
know?
Yeah, I think well, the whole age of the awakening that's happening is sort of dismantling some of that much denser reality that I guess we've chosen to some degree to engage in. And now
Yes.
perhaps as a mass consciousness, we are we ready to, or as live in a higher frequency
Yes.
state together and remembering more of the true essence of who we are here in the physical.
Yes. Another way to put that is we're ready to process our fear, which means we have to see it on the surface and see all of the nasty systems we create out of fear and ego and us versus them thinking and all that good stuff. We need to see it and we need to choose something else. So we need to process it and choose something else. Those two sides of the coin that we kind of talked about earlier.
Mm,
Awakening is about so there is this shift in consciousness that is taking place. So back to the idea of vibration, let's call vibration a temperature because temperature actually is a vibration. It's a vibration of physical matter in heat. But consciousness has a vibration. So let's say that let's talk about the collective consciousness as having like a mean temperature, an average temperature. The awakening is that the fact that that temperature is rising right now. It's not jumping 50 degrees, a ton, a lot all at once. No, because we are in a very dense reality system. And so to raise the temperature 1/10 of a degree, metaphorically, if not literal degrees, I'm just using a metaphor.
right.
If we raise the temperature 1/10 of a degree, that is a big deal when you have 10,000 pounds of weight on every player in the game. You see what I mean? So the temperature is increasing. There has been a very significant change since even really even over the last 5 years, but I'm thinking back to like 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah,
This is not the same energetic environment as it was 20 or 30 years ago, and it will not be the same energetic environment 20 or 30 years from now.
yeah.
In fact, what we are doing through the awakening is a really exciting experiment. Like, I mean, it's something it draws a lot of attention in spirit. I remember that in my pre-birth experience. I remember knowing like this is just the act of the play that the earth is in, and it's such an honor to be on earth during this time and to participate in this huge, amazing experiment because we are trying to move from super to super denseness and tons of fear to our true nature in a relatively short amount of time. What's a short amount of time? The ego wants it right now, right? We want it like yesterday. Well, a short amount of time could even be a few hundred years. I mean, that's not very long at all. Even 1,000 years isn't long at all. But I'm not talking about even that length of time. Even in a few generations, this is going to be a significantly different place. It already is, but it's going to continue to be significantly different. That's a blink of an eye for spirit. When you're
Mm,
talking about this dense of a situation, this is crazy dense. So that's why, like, and that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about lifting up the power of the individual, because we often get lost in these ideas here of like, oh, all the power's out there. It's all in the political systems. It's all in the economic systems. It's all in the organizations. And we lose sight of the power that we have as individual participants. You don't worry about the whole world. You know you. Be empowered. Choose love and peace and freedom in your life, whatever that means for you. You're wise enough to feel and know what that means exactly. Are you willing to see and hear what it means? Because the soul will often lift up things that are kind of like they might be scary, they might be new, they might require change. We have to be
absolutely.
willing to listen, but if we're willing and we choose to align with lives that are more authentic and of love and joy, Oh my gosh, that helps so much the whole world to heal. Not only physically, but in consciousness space, because then your temperature goes up quite a bit. And then your temperature affects the temperature of the whole pond. And
Right.
then when their temperature goes up, it's like a light going off in the cave. The other person sees that light in consciousness, maybe not consciously at the human level, but their soul sees it. They see that light, and then they might feel empowered. Oh, wait, I can choose that too. You don't even have to see the other person to affect them. I've
Mm,
heard people ask questions about specific events in the world, and yes, we should take action in the world. This is not about avoiding the world or ignoring the world. This is about taking action too. That's what intention will mean, action. But also at the same time, your choice to be more loving and present and alive, it affects everyone. It affects Trump, it affects Putin, it affects everyone. They can't help but you know what I'm saying? So don't feel disempowered. Oh, and one last comment because I get fired up every time I talk about this. One awakened person has a disproportionately positive impact on the temperature.
mm,
It's not just 1 over 8 billion is your fraction of the pie. One awakened person can bring more heat into the water than thousands of other beings who are unconscious, less conscious,
mm.
and not acting in awakeness. So you have a disproportionately positive opportunity potential. And that's important to lift up.
Do you think it's important to as a sort of awakening soul, you could say, to get hold of your contract for this life, like do the work to possibly, hypnotherapy or whatever, to see what it is that you may have contracted or what that one, do you think it's helpful to know what you came here to do or what you
I
intended?
would, I mean, my feeling would be that it's helpful for some, but definitely not for most, actually.
Hmm,
Because your deeper self already knows, so you don't even need to consciously really understand it exactly at the human level. Just listen to yourself.
right.
Like listen to your intuition, listen to your soul. You already know. You may not need to know at the human level, oh, I picked exactly this and this and this and this. You already know at the deeper level. So the question is, how willing are you to follow your own intuitive guidance anyway?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's such a great message. I'm so enjoying um, I'm just so enjoying listening to you and talking to you. But it's like I said, it's like a going to bed, a sort of bedtime story. When I listen to your sharings, it's like it's
Like
just
too
such
good to be true.
good news sort of thing. Not really
Like
too
too
good
good
to be
to...
true, but just it's not like something that I don't know, but it's just like such a great reminder over and over and over again with really empowered, messaging. And specifically,
It is a very empowering message. It's not my message.
it's the message,
it's just the message. Like it'd be like saying someone told me the sky was blue outside. It's just when you're inside and dreary, it's helpful to, oh, that's right, the sky is blue.
right?
That's it. I mean, it really is that. I mean, and I personally feel like so everything I've shared and everything that I hear so many people who are sharing today say, it's not like a religious message, it's not a charge, it's simply natural. It'd be like pointing out that gravity exists. That's how I feel about this deeper nature that we are. It doesn't mean that it's dry and neutral. It's just natural. Like
Right.
the natural thing that we are is consciousness itself. If you look deep down underneath all your thought, many people are not willing to put in the time and the effort, so in quotes, to do that. But if you really go look, you will find that this is what's there. Like I'm not making it. Don't believe me. In fact, don't believe me or anybody else. Go find out. Just go look. Go see if the sky is blue. Like go investigate your own consciousness beneath all thoughts, all stories. And
Mm,
if feelings arise, be willing to see and feel them all. Like go see. Go see what's underneath all that. Go see what that's made of. Go see what your feelings are made of. Go see what your thoughts are made of. Yeah. So for me, that's just like kind of a natural comment. It's not even just like, oh, this is a nice thing. It's just like it's just what is real.
Yeah. So, Christian, there's so many things we could talk about, but I think that's probably enough for one session, and hopefully we'll have another time. I'd love to go further with you, but so much has been said, and I think it's a lovely, piece. So, is there anything else? I know you've written a book. Could you just share with
Yeah.
the viewers about your book?
Yeah, my book is called A Walk in the Physical, and at the website awalkinthephysical.com, it's available at the third link down on the book page to be read online on Google Books for free as a PDF, as an online PDF. It's also on Amazon or in print or Kindle or on Audible as an audiobook. Those are not free though. But it's not about money. I just want to get this shared. I just want to share like the ultimate joy is sharing joy with each other. And then when we look back on this, we say, wow, we did it. Like that's the coolest.
Mm.
So that's what I'm passionate about doing. Um, and yeah, my website at walkinthephysical.com also has many talks that I've given. And eventually I'm going to have a YouTube channel, I think, but that's not happening yet. But I've been feeling some nudges and I have topics that are already kind of pouring out on a note sheet. So that'll be eventual. Yeah, and that's about it.
All right. Any final message to close? Anything that you
Yeah,
want
well, I
to?
mean, I'll just say thank you, whoever you are, for being human today. I know that sounds strange. You don't remember not being human, probably, but being here is no joke, and it's a huge service and a huge opportunity. So thank you for being here today, whoever you are listening. And yeah, go choose to be more you in your life, whatever that means, and know that you don't have to fear. That's the that's the most important message. Yeah.
Beautiful. Kristen, you're a star. I'm so grateful that you're shining your light. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you too. We'll see you again sometime soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.